are still in the season of Easter, and so our gospel reading today continues that season with another visitation from Jesus. We're reading from John chapter 21, verses 1 through 19. After these things, that's after the two appearances to the disciples in the locked room and Thomas no longer having his doubts. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, and he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I am going fishing." They said to him, "We'll go with you." They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach. But the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, you have no fish, have you?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net to the right side of the boat, and you'll find some." So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards off. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there, with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have just caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore full of large fish, 153 of them. And though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you'll stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this, he said to them, "Follow me." This ends our reading of the gospel. Please join me in prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. What an amazing scene. Jesus sitting next to a fire on the shore, the guys out in the boat fishing. Maybe they're too far from shore to recognize him in the dim light of early morning. Maybe they don't recognize him because they don't expect to see him. He gives them a fishing pointer. They follow the suggestion, and suddenly the net is overfilled with fish. Finally, one of them recognizes him, lets Peter know who it is, and Peter responds by rushing to shore. How beautiful. This Peter, in a hot seat, not because Jesus wants to make him squirm, but because Peter needs to feel like he's actually somehow earned forgiveness. Jesus had already let him off the hook, but Peter hasn't let go of his guilt yet. Just like us, he's all too aware of his own failings. He can't forget that he denied Jesus 3 times on that horrible night when Jesus was arrested. He knows he failed the most wonderful man he's ever met. So, Jesus meets Peter where he is, stuck in a cycle of self-recrimination, and offers him a way out. 3 chances to profess his love. 3 commandments to live that love by serving others. 3 times. 1 for each time that Peter had denied knowing Jesus. And now, Peter is free from the oppressive guilt and shame that would have kept him from taking his place as the foundation of the church. Now, Peter is not only forgiven, he is restored in his very own mind. I think this is one of the greatest challenges of Christianity, believing we're actually forgiven, really forgiven, completely forgiven, free of guilt, free of the burden, restored to full communion with Christ, and ready to live in that incredible grace that is so extravagantly poured out on us over and over again. Peter needed to be asked this question and given this commandment. He needed to respond to Jesus. He needed it. Jesus didn't. Jesus already forgave him for being a human with feelings and fears. Jesus already commissioned him to lead the movement, sharing the teachings he received from Jesus. This dialogue was a gift to Peter and a gift to us. We get to eavesdrop on the conversation because we are a lot like Peter. We mean well, but sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we make little mistakes. Sometimes we really mess up. And we remember all those failures. We remember every time we do something we shouldn't, and every time we don't do something we should. And all that guilt gets in the way of living our lives with the abundance that Jesus offers us. But then, we remember Peter. He really messed up. Even though he swore he wouldn't, Peter denied ever having known Jesus 3 times. Yet even with that big a screw up, Jesus continued to love Peter and continued to believe in Peter's capacity to do Jesus' work. So Peter got a second chance. And just in case 1 second chance wasn't enough, Jesus gave him another second chance to confess his love for him. And then, still again, Jesus gave him another second chance for Peter to say, I love you. 3 second chances. Not because Jesus needed to hear it 3 times, but because Peter needed to somehow feel as if he had atoned for his massive failure. And each time Peter declared his love for Jesus, Jesus repeated the commission he had already given to Peter. Feed my sheep. Jesus didn't repossess the job he'd given Peter to go out and teach others about living in faithful relationship with God and each other. He didn't say, I had big hopes for you, but dude, you proved yourself to be unworthy. He recommissioned him. He said, I still believe in you, Peter. I know you have it in you to do this. I'm trusting you to take care of my precious people. What a marvelous gift we all received when Jesus met the disciples on that shore. We get the confirmation we we need. We are forgiven, and we are still trusted. In spite of the number of times we don't do what we should, we're given second chances. Again and again, second chances. And we're called to action over and over again. The Christ who loves us believes in us and supports us in our lives, reminding us as many times as we need to hear it that we are forgiven, we are restored, and we have sacred work to accomplish. How awesome is that? We worship a God who knows us completely, loves us completely, forgives us completely, and believes in us completely. When we mess up, we get a completely new chance to do better because our God still loves us just as much as we were loved before we flowed. It's a beautiful story we need to put into our memory banks. We need to get it really stuck in our heads, like a catchy tune we can't shake. We need to hear it replay over and over again. Listen to Jesus calling each of us by name, asking, do you love me? Hear ourselves respond, yes, I love you. And then listen to Jesus offer that wondrous confirmation that we are still his precious. Feed my sheep. May we live the rest of our lives hearing Jesus offer us radical forgiveness and extravagant grace. May we respond to that overflowing love by loving others.